Welcome to Member 365 webinar on List Builder Optimizing Engagement, presented by Member 365. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christine Bundy. I'm the Director of Customer Success. And fun fact is I love questions. So if you have questions at all throughout this presentation, please put them into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. If I do see them as I'm going, I do try to answer them, but there is time for Q&A at the end. Everybody's cameras are off. Everyone's been muted. We are recording, and all recordings will be posted on our YouTube channel for future reference. So if you come up with questions later on, you can always ask us for help as well. Today, what we will be covering is we will be looking at the difference between a sign-up form and the list builder and what both of those do and how they work and how do you create both of those. And then I'm going to go through some of the most commonly asked options for the list builder. And I'm going to go through the and versus the or statements. And then we'll follow up with some best practices and again, questions. So all questions are good questions. Please put them into the Q&A. And as I said, I will try to go through them as we go or answer them at the end. All right, so let's dive in to Member 365. And so here we are. This is the admin dashboard. And so the first thing I always like to mention when I come in here is that my view might be different from your view depending on your admin permissions. If you need access to the sign up forms, which is under email marketing or the list builder, and you don't see it in your CRM menu, then you need to talk to your admin manager. They are the only ones who can add or remove them. Here at Member 365, we do not touch anyone's permissions. So the big difference between a sign-up form, which is our first topic, and lists is that a sign-up form is where members can subscribe. So these forms can be embedded on your website and members can sign up for them. They also appear in the member portal. So when people go to do their preferences, their email preferences, they will also see these sign-up forms. They will also see these sign-up forms when you send email communications out. At the bottom, if someone goes to opt out, they will see the list of sign-up forms available for preferences. So you want to at least make sure that you have at least 3 at a minimum, maybe 2 if you're, but at least I always recommend 3. So I always recommend if you have a newsletter, membership information, and events are mainly the 3 top contenders for association based. You could have lots of others. There's lots in here. We've done quite a few examples in this specific site as it's our play and test site that we use for webinars. But this is simply going to show you all the kind of different options that we have. And as people sign up, they can subscribe or unsubscribe. Now, I'm just going to go into general updates, and if I click on here, it's going to, it's the same as if I went to click create. I'd have to give it a name. I would determine what fields are mandatory if I'm embedding the form onto the website as a sign-up form. And so if you're doing it as a sign-up form, I always recommend making first and last name mandatory because it's kind of the bare minimum. So when you're sending communications and you have first name, hi, first name, it's going to fill in and you know who that person is. It is making it automatically email. And then if there's any other questions that you need, you can ask them. Try to keep it as minimal as possible to what is required by your organization. Then when you go down, if you have a list, so let's say you're coming from Constant Contact or from MailChimp, you can grab those emails and you can put them into this subscription list, whether it's your newsletter or for your member base. And then you can mark what type of consent you have and hit update or save and create that. Now, if I hit update after I've updated that, it's going to populate with the embed code. So this is the embed code that you would put on your website so that people could sign up. Now, I did, if you're wondering like, hey, what does that look like? Let's go to our demo site because I added it here last month. And so if we scroll down, there's events, become a member. Oh, I apologize. It was removed. So it would be just a kind of like a contact form where they would have their first and last name. You can add lettering to the top and then have a submit button at the bottom. So it's very similar to that. So I apologize. The other one has been removed recently. But it's just copying this in, putting it into an HTML block. So you can't just put it into a text field. You need to make sure there's an HTML block or code block, depending if you're using WordPress or Wix or Squarespace. They each still have a slightly different name for it, but it's an HTML code block that you want to put it in. So that's if you want to do it on the website. So again, it's for preferences. So when a member goes to the member portal and they want to opt out of communications, they see the list that you have generated here. So just to emphasize, if I go to my account and I go down to email notifications, I then will be able to see all of those lists under my subscription list items. And so I can say yes or no. And then this same list is if I go to opt out from an email, I see this list as well. And the strategy also behind it, like even if you're not going to embed them on your website, is to prevent people from completely opting out of all communications. You want to still have that consent. So you want to have a strategy of trying to maintain it. So maybe just having them getting specific information instead of just saying, no, I'm done. I don't want anything. Also note that if people do opt out and they have a membership, renewals can still be sent, but that is the only communication that can be sent if they have an active membership with you. Now, lists. How to create a list. So lists are basically a tool for you to filter your members and sort them for either exporting a report that you may need, getting specific numbers that you may need, or for email communications. So those are the main purposes. You can't import a list. Really simple to do. You just need the first name, last name, or sorry, just email address. No first name, no last name. It's very basic. You basically have email in a list and you can import them into a list itself. Now, the one thing I am going to mention is if you look at this and I'm scrolling down, this is a mess. There's too many cooks in this kitchen, too many of the same thing. The number one thing that I get when I have new administrators come on for an association is I don't know which list to use to send out my communications. Yes. So there might be an all contacts list, but there might be 4 or 5 of them, or there might be an all members list, but there might be 4 or 5 of them, and they each have different filters. So which one do I use? So this is the most common question I get. And so we're going to do this one first. So if I needed to do an all active member list, I could come to create and I'm going to say all active. So if you have a big list like that, you are going to want to clean it out. I go through our personal system that we use for your guys and I clean it out. If I have past webinar events, I clean it out. I can always remake those lists if I need them. The system is always there. But if it's something that I don't need in the next 6 months or even a couple months, I can remove it to keep it clean and have it very clear as to which lists we need consistently. When you are creating this, I always like to be very upfront about it and like very clear and concise. So like I'm making an all members list for the newsletter for 2025. And then next year I can simply come in and switch this to say 2026. And so that people know use this list. It's clear as to which one they should be using. I want to share my list. I want all administrators to be able to see what I'm doing. If I'm working on a special project, I can hide it so only I can see it. So that's what keep it private means. And then I'm going to click continue. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is all contacts right now are in here. This is all contacts. In this green box is my set of criteria. Any filters I add within this box creates an and statement. So this and this filter everyone. So we're going to do first is create our and statement. So we're going to go primary contacts. We're going to select all. If there's only specific ones, you can remove ones that shouldn't need it. So for example, if you didn't want staff in this list because you have a separate list for staff members for testing, and then you want to make it so it's only active. So now I'm going to go to status. And this is my and statement. So now we're going to watch it drop. So it went down to 400. Now it's down to 192. So I have 192 members that have an active membership that have a membership that are not staff and have an active status. Now, what if some of them have employees and I want to add employees to this? I'm going to add another criteria box because I don't want it to be they are a primary contact and an employee. I want them to be they could be a primary contact or an employee. And so here is where you make your or statement. So now I'm going to go for employees. I'm going to select all because all these can apply. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to add the active filter. So now, as you can see, it's already gone up. And I'm going to say status is active. And it's going to go back down a little bit. So we're at 200. So that's increased our list. So again, these two blue boxes within one green criteria box makes an and statement. Having two criteria boxes makes an or statement. I fit in this filter or this filter, and I automatically get added to the list. The other great thing about our system is that these lists are dynamic and therefore they always are updating. So if somebody's status automatically switches from active to lapsed, they then are automatically removed from the list builder. So this is why it's really important to make sure you get your filters right. And you also make it very clear as to what this list is for, so nobody comes in and makes big adjustments. So this is the first option. And so as I can scroll down, I can see all of the contacts are associated to it. Now, someone always asks me, why is there a red line through this? And this is because there's no consent for this individual. So this is just one of our test subjects. And so anyone who has a red line means they have opted out of communications. The only way you can communicate with them is if they have an active membership and you're sending them a renewal notice. If there's someone on this list that you're like, hey, Tim, you shouldn't be in here, I could always click on it and it will have a gray line. Gray line means an admin has personally removed them. You can always bring them back in. And once their consent is updated, it'll automatically remove the red line. But if you're ever wondering why I have 200 people here, but it only sent out to 195, that means that 5 people in your list you don't have consent for. So that's why this list might be different from the list or contacts, recipients that you send your communications from. That's another common question that I get, so I always like to answer it. I can take this information and I can export it, as I said, so you can select all, or you can select specific information that you want to have in an Excel sheet. But this, once you save it, will always be up to date and you can always come in and see exactly the number that you're looking for or use it for communications. Both sign-up forms and lists can be used for email communications. You can select one or the other or both. You can select multiple lists. The beautiful thing about the system is if someone is in all 3 lists, they only get one email. So it defaults they're sent one and then not sent another, even though they're in multiple lists. So if you are having to create multiple lists for your campaigns, that is an option that is available. All right, other common questions that I get. So if let's save this and we're going to go in and do another. Always save before you leave. So we're going to go in and we are going to look at, and I'm just going to call this Christine's list for today because we're just going to go through a few different examples. And so in here, in our criteria box, going through each of these. So you can filter based off of committees, their roles or status, different contact demographics. So if you have different demographics that you are looking to filter off of, you can use that. The second most common ask is, how do I send an email to non-members? So we do have a non-member filter. So they currently do not have a membership. They still might have an archive membership, but they are no longer a member. So you can send out communications to them. If you're going to ask, can we do it for people that aren't archived? It is a filter that is with the development team to be released. I do not have a release date, but stay tuned to our release notes if that is a filter that you are looking for. If you have or are thinking of filters, please submit them to us. I love hearing about what people are trying to do with them. It might be in a report or it might require us to make an update to the filters. So just something to always ask. Again, we love questions and suggestions. So ask if there's something missing or if you're not being able to find something. So that's an option for you. And then other items you can do is form directory questions. So this is why during the onboarding, we always ask for what things you want to filter off of. Because you can create lists based off of those filters. And so it's really important that if you are using your directory, that you have questions in there that can be filtered for segmenting members. So the speciality, I have one association that was doing it based off of services that they offer of like a general community. And so if they were offering painting, you wanted to send anyone with painting information, you could, or if they were in construction, or if they were in retail, those then could be filtered off for specific communications if needed. We also have some education options which are available. LMS events. These ones are great. So this is for if registered but not attend guests. So if I registered someone with me, so I'm the registrant, but I assign the ticket to someone else. You want to use registered as a guest, registered to the event, and then you also have the attendance options as well, based off event categories. So everyone within that category can get added to a list. There's lots of different options. I always like that if I create an event in our system, I go right away and I create the list for everybody that's registered or everyone that has not registered. So that if I'm sending out further communications, I just send it to those individuals. I don't know how many times I've signed up for an event and then I keep getting the, hey, register. And I say, I'm already registered. I don't need to hear this. And I'm almost opting notifications. Just something to think about. Once you make the list, it's great because again, if someone registers, they automatically get removed from the did not register list. We also do fundraising, so you can send out communications to donors. How'd you hear about us? That's from the fundraising campaign. Engagement score. This is another one. People always ask, a common question is how do I reach out to those that aren't involved? Well, you can do it so that it's a score of, actually, I like doing the greater than or less than. So if their score is less than 2, you can create the list and then everybody that has a low score will be in this list that you can communicate with. You can also pull the engagement scores from the engagement analytics, but it's a common ask. We've gone over membership. There is also the membership form. So if you're using that instead, the new member before and after date, this is if you're looking for new members within a certain time frame, you can pull that report. It will require an and statement. So before this date and after this date type of scenario. You can also do it based off of the organization information. Now, things to be aware of is if I do organization and I do it like based off of classification. So let's just say organization details and I say yes, and I remove this filter. It's going to pull everybody that is related, not just the primary, the related contacts. So everybody within the organization. Now, if I added the role management and I just wanted to talk to the primary contact, then you're going to filter it down to just the one individual from that organization that you want to talk to. So that's a common ask too that I see quite often. So just make sure that if you're doing anything with organization, you may want to have your roles assigned. And then finally, tags. Something I get asked a lot of is, can I do a mass tag? So yes, you can. You can send it to us in an import, or you can create the tag, have the tag ready. And if you import your list, so let's say you have a group of people, you already know who they are, you import them in as a list, and then you want to assign a tag to them. I can come up here and I can click on this tag option. And when I click on it, I can then click on share tags or my tags, and I can assign this tag to everyone in that list. It's also really great so that if you're importing a list, signing a tag as well, if the list ever gets deleted, you still have the tag. Also, if you're trying to add an additional person, it's another common asked question. I have a list. How do I add one more? Create a tag. Once you have the tag, then when you go to the contact record, you add the tag, it automatically adds to the list. When you send out communications, they're all getting it. So that is another common ask. So even if I just say one of these and I say yes, it'll automatically assign or apply to everybody in the list. All right. So then now let's go back and do some best practices, and then we will do some questions. And again, I love questions. So if you have any, please feel free to ask in the Q&A. So first thing is clearly label your list. Use consistency, describe the name. So make sure it's very clear. And then next is cleaning your list. So use our example. Our one that we use for you guys is very clean. This one is very messy. Make sure you clean it out. So again, lists can always be recreated if you need to, but make sure you're clearly labeling it. Again, new admins come in and they're like, I don't know, there's 4 all contact lists. Which ones do I use? Let's make one and let's delete the other ones. And then finally is make your lists in advance. So if you are doing events, when you create the event, create your lists. So for people that have registered, for people that have not registered. So both your communication lists are ready for you, because there's always like, hey, this needs to get out like right now. And you don't want to have to be scrambling to create your lists. They're already there for you. Same with if you're doing follow-ups or any reminders for your events. All right, questions. Oh, we have one. Awesome. Oh, sorry, my voice was muffled. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was speaking clearly. Missed about the tags. So back to the tags. Great. Thank you for pointing that out. So for tags, you can do mass importing for tags. If you send us an import sheet, we can do like email address and a tag, just 2 columns. We can import that for you. Now, if I went and I imported a list using emails, let's say it's this one, I can go over here to tags. And if I select a tag, whether it's a my tag or shared tags, all admins can see. My tags, only I can see. And I select it, it then gets applied to everyone in that list. So I always get asked, if I import a list, how do I add one more or 2 more or 1 down the line? It's through tags. So if I go in and I import and then tag everyone, if the list is removed, I still have that tag and then I can still use it later on. You can always delete tags too and clean them out. I do that too, but it's available. So I can come in here and click new tag, and then that applies to everyone. So then the next person I need to add, if they're in the system or if I have to create the contact record, I go to the record and then add the tag. They automatically get added to the list. So I hope that clears it up, and thank you for pointing it out. If I missed anything, please ask. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Any other questions? All right. If you have more questions, I love hearing about them. So does the team. So please reach out to us. You can write on your dashboard. Oh, sorry, one more. I have a list of new sponsors and want to create a list and send an email campaign. Okay, so couple things. Do you want them to be in the system for contacts? Should they have a membership? Are you going to promote them? Or are you simply just going to want a list? So you have a list of email addresses, you want to import those email addresses, then you can tag them and then send them email communications to that specific list. So yeah, I would import the emails, create contact records for those email addresses if they're not already in the system, and then I create a tag for sponsors. It might be sponsors 2025 sponsors. Yeah, be careful. Sponsors, you might want to put the year, because each year they may change. And so you also then will have a record of which year they're associated with. Just food for thought. Again, it's up to you, but I always like to narrow it down as much as I possibly can. So that's what I would recommend doing. And then you can add that in. All right, great questions. All right, so if you have further ones, reach out, submit a ticket. We love hearing from you. Or if you have chat, you can reach out on chat. But thank you all very much for joining me today for the List Builder. And we are going to be taking a vacation from reports for the next couple weeks, but we will see you back in August. Bye for now.